And this is part 2 for August the 5th. Just ate some 3 hamburgers. 3 hamburgers, got them on some special. And towards the sun we go. Just saw Fantastic 4 with my anonymous friend. We're gonna get, I got out that backpack. That backpack full. It's more than 44 pounds because I'm carrying some goods for myself and for my anonymous friend who was my friend because of the money, because I never had any pledge of allegiance to our family. Rock and roll 24/7 for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, electricians, the plumbers, and this is a lion. See the lion? You got that lion, and enough of my... I guess we're gonna point towards the sun, the S-U-N. The Pope, the King, the sun, sunset in about 44 minutes. I got some drink to go. The butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the firefighters, all those electricians who get it on that go, on that rock and roll, you know. For the plumbers, those who flip up those burgers, preparing some cheeseburgers, hamburgers, some of that good loving cheeseburgers, hamburgers, fries in the fast food. For the truckers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians, the plumbers, the bakers, the nurses, the daycare workers changing some of those diapers, those on the cranes, train conductors. Always for the NACWP, let's lay the foundations for the North American Collective Workers Party, aka the Democratic Republican Party, for the 10, the 50, and the 3 for the 21st century, for the North American Collective Civilizational Complex and all ALL who come to join us here in the coming of our empire. Just saw Fantastic 4. I liked it, but I didn't like it that much as the other 4 movies that I saw a priori, but it was okay. I would not mind seeing it again. Fantastic 4. Please give 1%, make it 2, 3, 4, 5% of all gross profits. Give it for food security, give it to citizens. Rehabilitation, of course, post the storms, and we see that there's been a lot of storms recently, and they need to rehabilitate, you know, in the United States and Canada, wildfires, and of course we got those storms, like unprecedented storms that have been happening, and we have flooding in the metro New York. I never seen anything like that, and you gotta get for those truckers. See how my brain now works here, passing through my own neighborhood. Nothing that I want to go back to because I healed, survived, and lived with scars, and been depressed, been suicidal, been rejected, been isolated, been closed doors. But today I'm happy, joyous, celebrating every day, carpe diem, and it's always life, you know. It's always something that we gotta celebrate, and myself who died, of course, of COVID, February 2020. Between February 2020 and March 2020, I thought I was gonna die, and in many ways I did die. I survived, and here I am, you know, that rock and roll. It's 24/7 for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, the plumbers, the electricians, the nurses. That beautiful sunset here from Montreal, Hog Island, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. It is Tuesday, August 5th. And of course, I'm coming from my own neighborhood, going into the new, I guess in the past 11 years is kind of like basically it's like the 4th time, I guess. On that truck it says friends, and it's red and white, perfect combination, just like my shoes. Thank you to that anonymous acquaintance friend who gifted me these shoes last year just before. He said it's an early Christmas present for me, holidays. I think it was October 26th or something when he gave it to me, something like that. And I've been rock and rolling because when I jog, as I jogged earlier, I wear these because they're good for that jogging. And my anonymous friend gave me some green and white shoes the other day, so that is what we have to do. That is what we have to appellate, and you know, be nice. For example, just now I went to eat some hamburgers on special once in a while, that special fast food treat, and the prices have gone up, the prices went up, and the changes, of course, there's been some changes. Just gonna wait, get out of here, slow down a bit. And of course the prices have changed, but you know, I waited a bit more, and I guess they were busy, so you don't need, I was thinking, you don't, with fast food workers, and you can try to understand and resolve in a understandable, loving way, because you know, fast food work is not easy. So my friend asked, did they forget you? And I said no, it's just, I guess they were preoccupied and they neglected to add a burger, because I ordered 2 small ones for $3 each, and one was part of the $5 combo, so that was just a little bit of delay. But you know, I smiled and I said I understand. Sometimes, you know, it's hard working in fast food. I guess myself, you know, I would have been able to last maybe 4 days. I guess because of my neurological mental divergent condition, it wouldn't be too good for me to work in fast food. I can sing that rock and roll though. That's what I'm gonna do, march for the fast food workers across the 53. Those who flip up some burgers now, change some, give some fast food, give some buns, make some hamburgers, make some cheeseburgers, serve some fries, serve some trios, you know. Do that, serve. And always gotta be mindful of, they're also stressed, and it's something which sometimes you gotta get on the stress in type of situation when people are more stressed than at other times, and then sometimes you're less stressed than at other times, and sometimes you don't even realize how the stress can impede your well-being, you know, your well-being generally, and you try as much as you can, of course, to be understanding, as much as understanding can be relegated to certain dimensions of our well-being. When you cross the street, turn your heads left and right, super important. Turn your heads left and right, you know, you got that beautiful sun, and sometimes it's better to balance, you know, to balance and understand, you know. I'm not totally selfless. I don't make pretense that I'm totally selfless. Totally selfless or without fault. I make no such pretense or say statements or flaunt it in such a way. I got plenty of scars and trauma. I used to live here in the neighborhood, my own neighborhood here, and I don't remember much, you know, my life prior to spring 2014 for the time being. It remains a mystery. I got blackouts of memory, I guess. It's RA, retrograde amnesia. Symptoms: I used to live in a very moldy underground basement, small type of a prison cell. Even the kitchen was inside the room, small room, underground basement, and of course even the bathroom was so small, like a tight prison cell, literally like a tight small prison cell where I used to live. I don't know how many years I lived there, but that's what it is. Really small, really moldy, and I moved from there to a better place, and I was depressed, suicidal for a few years, and I started working out, training, exercising after 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast. And after I crossed Canada coast to coast, that made me come out of being depressed and suicidal back in 2017. August 15th is gonna be marking 8 years already. 2017, we're 2025. 18 years already since I crossed Canada coast to coast, you know. So that is, of course, my whole changing of my dynamics here from my own neighborhood. And again, nothing that I want to go back to, but that's what I live with. And here I'm just gonna pass to drink some water, just to hydrate a bit. Oh yeah, just to get a little bit of that hydration, you know, super important, to hydrate. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Whew, that's really good. A little bit of hot water. Hot water is hot at the beginning. It turns the hot day. You gotta wait a few seconds. At the beginning it was hot, but after that, of course, it changes and it becomes less hot. So just wait a few minutes, few seconds, and after that, of course, you have the water what you want to enjoy. Just give me a second here if I continue my marching dialogue. Gonna cross the other side because I want to check those yellow flowers. Oh yeah. Wow. I really love yellow flowers like that, and that's why I crossed the street just to take a little closer peek, because you know I got a thing for those yellows. So passing from my own neighborhood into the new, gotta turn my head left and right and meditate, appellate. Always good to turn your heads, you know. You never know, sometimes the brakes malfunction of the citizen driving, and the brakes are not always 100% proof, you know. You gotta, of course, make your due diligence, turn your heads left and right. Because the citizen driver might press the accelerator instead of a brake. The brake can sometimes let loose. It might not make contact properly and you might not stop. So better ways. In the public sphere, we got added responsibilities and obligations. So it's best if you just correlate, and best if you just integrate, and responsibilities, duties, and obligations. So I admire those yellow flowers there, are to be set by the individual citizen sovereign in concordia with the other individual sovereign citizens, and the collective, you know, the collective rules and regulations of the traffic and the pedestrian. And so is pedestrians, because the cars, you know, we can rebuild, and we can rebuild with that, and the cars can be rebuilt on that go. And it's just the body, you know, is so important, and it's a temple for pleasure and purpose. So it's always to look out for cars when you cross the streets by turning your heads. Just this aspies, artists, athletes, philosophers, independent geopolitical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist. And I'm not perfect, far from it, and I love me some of these gardens. Whenever I see gardens such as this, it's always quadruples my smile. Oh yeah, quadruples my smiles, you know. And those also, they are just beautiful gardens, and that's just what I gotta love to do, and admire these, and just admiring these. Oh, that's my own neighborhood. Like I said, nothing that I will to go back, to return to old habits, lives, or situation. But look at these beauties. Wow, that's a big white, just like snow. Just love it. And it's scented quadrupled my smile, and I'm pretty joyous. I'm just financially stressed, and I just discussed again with a fellow citizen, and we were in the grocery store, and we were both checking some coffee packs. We didn't know what was the grams and how to use them, and he said he never bought those coffee packs, and I said I gotta go check those yellows. Those packs, they were on special, they were reduced. So he said that he never used those packs of coffee. So we both checked the country of origin, and it was very small. So there were 20, we figured it out together that it was 20 packs. Wow, look at that beauty. 20 packs, and that you only need water. So it has everything it's needed. And they're on special, so we decided to buy, myself included, because I'm running out of coffee. So that's gonna be, look at these, they're so gorgeous. I just love those flowers there. And that's what it is, and that's how we do, and that's how it got correlated to be. And we both were having a discussion, and I mentioned it was quite a good discussion, fellow citizens, and or not, I'm not sure, I didn't ask about citizenship, but of course all who come here are considered like my family, extended family, in whatever capacities whatsoever. But that's what we got, and that's what we gotta get doing like that, That's what we gotta get doing, So I mentioned about Asperger's. I mentioned that I live with this neurological. I mentioned that I have Asperger's, HFA, high functioning autism, because my communication styles and how we communicate sometimes are different. And I mentioned it, and I already had to take a step back because, Aspie, sometimes personal space issues. We tend to breach the personal space of an individual, and we tend to, of course, get too close when we converse, when some people interact or converse. If you start conversing with an Aspie might really come very close, like very close to inches, 4 inches even close. So that can be uncomfortable, can trigger some malaise, because of this personal space, because our brains are different, we have mutations. But again, my fellow citizen, although the discussion was nice, although he corrected himself afterwards, because he had mentioned, oh yes, I know what it is, it's a disease. And I said, no, it's not a disease. I'm not a disease. I'm not a disease. I'm not a disease. I'm not a disease, It's not a disease. Actually, this time we're gonna just go by that way, like that, because we want to get more sun. Usually we go the other way, but now we're gonna go straight that way, because I want to get as much sun as I can today. So it's not a disease, and he retracted. He said, yes, okay, it's a neurodivergent condition. And I said, yes, that's the best capability to express it. But yes, of course, if you can start putting that the capabilities and how we are less capable, less able in social interactions, then yes, you can say that in certain quote-unquote, in parentheses, we have a disability in certain cases, right? We are less able, less functioning in certain cases, we are less able, but we're not, it's not the overall case, because in certain things we're very good, super good, and super to the point of exceeding when it comes to our special interests. And usually those special interests, they can be very narrow. It's a few special interests. Myself, I have my trinity of special interests, and 24/7 with me, as many Aspies, when we're engaged, when we work, when we study, when we do whatever activities we're doing in relation to our special interest, then we're super focused, super intense, super concentrated, super in it, right? Super in it. But that's the problem with these special interests, also known as obsessive interests, and I do not use the word obsessive, that they preoccupy our whole daily life. Daily routines and habits are usually related in XYZ ABCD capacities to these special interests. And since geopolitics is my special interest, he was mentioning that he might leave for travel, and he mentioned travel, my fellow citizen, and I said, give me a country. He didn't know which country. His problem, he said, he didn't know which country to visit next. And I said, you know, I love traveling, but I don't have any money, so, you know, how Aspies were sometimes too direct or straightforward, or I guess you can use the word honest or truthful with, you know, our finances. I told him actually I was financially stressed, you know. And Laffy said his problem is that he doesn't know which country to visit next. So I said, well, you, whatever, I said, the letter that starts with A, whichever one comes to mind. So he was thinking for like almost 45 seconds. Almost 45 seconds, about 44 seconds, almost 45 seconds. Hey, those are beautiful. Big trees there, 1, 2, 3, 4. I like how they're set up there, the trees. I wish I could give my anonymous friend a house like this. They're 5 actually. So that is just the Concordium, right? So he wasn't able, so then I helped. I said, well, you have Austria, you can go, Australia, you can go, Argentina, you can go, Albania, you can go. So he said, you know what, actually I was in Argentina. I don't know if it was truthful or not, when exactly the details, if he was in Argentina this year, 2025, and he told me some discussions, and I said, I know the countries, I know the geographic, because geopolitics is my special interest, but myself have not traveled. This is my home here, has been for many, many, many years in Montreal, Hawk Island, you know. Montreal, Hawk Island. So I don't know, you know. I don't know exactly what it is with that and what it is with the go, you know, but it's something which, of course, we have to meditate on, the integral parts of life that I don't really remember. I have trouble with my memory, personal memory. I have a very, very good memory, but over the past 7, 8, 9, 10, then 11 years. Spring 2014 is already, spring 2014, come to think of it, if you calculate spring 2014, that's more than 11 years and 4 months. More than 11 years and 4 months. Because we're 2025 in August, although there's 6 more weeks. 6 more weeks, you know. 6 more weeks. Although there's 6 more weeks. 6 more weeks of summer. That's what it is, and that's how we got, and that's how we go with that. So, due to the fact that it's 6 more weeks, that's what it is, and that's what it is with the length of the summer. So, the point is that my memory goes on the blackout. I got raw retrograde amnesia, so it's hard for me to remember my life prior to 2014, you know? 2014, you know? To 2014, spring 2014. And of course that is just the appellation, of course, of all the integral matters of which we have, and that's what it is which we have integral in, of course, all the communities and all, of course, the situational awarenesses of which we have, and that is something which we have to appellate, of course, to get it on the go. So that is my personal experience, you know. That is my personal experience. That is my personal experience, and that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with the go. So that is, of course, just my life, and gotta watch it there, crossing out the street brutally, and it's occasion, you know, for me to just, I guess, like my friend said, to educate a bit about Asperger's, and, you know, just the fact that it's been years and years and years since about several individuals and citizens who have diagnosed me for more than 9 years, individual citizens who have diagnosed me for more than 9 years, you know, more than 9 years, many different individuals, and I never accepted it. I didn't want to accept, you know, I'm different, and this label kind of still is a stigma, but less 20th century, you know. It's less so in the 20th century. It's less so in the 20th century. In the 21st, I mean, it's less so now in the 21st century than it used to be in the 21st century, right? It's less so today, but there still is a stigma associated, and there's still a lot of clarification and further education to be done. So the most important notation and, I guess, correction to remember. and one fall that arises. And notation. So that is, of course, the appellation, which we have, of course, to integrate in all our dimensions, you know. That it's not a mental illness. So it's not a mental illness. So we start with that, and then we can proceed with what Asperger's is and what is not. And it's not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition, makes us Aspies. Makes us Aspies, predisposed to special interests, you know. Special interests, to special interests. To special interest, you know. To special interest. Special interest. And those special interests preoccupy and take the majority of our time. The majority of our time, right? With intensity, super focused, super dedication. Sometimes, again, to the detriment of other activities such as socializing. And we Aspies, as I mentioned in most of my videos, we face three main problems. The main problem, or in whatever order for different Aspies, is different. Myself as an individual with Asperger's, citizen sovereign, and part of the LGBTQ community. I've been in the open for more than 7-8 years now, you know, since 2017. I am androgynous pansexual. My androgyny is relegated to the fact that I have been born in different incarnations, different lives, different incarnations across the world, as a man, as a woman from ancient Egypt, a man and woman in ancient Rome. I love this. Thank you, public workers. This is really good. I just love that tricolor combination with the fourth color, the green, and those four colors, really 9+. So my past lives incarnations aside, and one time I was born in the U.S.A. Once as a woman, twice as a man. Served in the same United States Armed Forces, which was founded about 250 years ago, in two different wars. But the wars were 156 years apart, as I was born here in Quebec, Canada. Québécois, you know. Québécois, between 1688 and 1735. It wasn't the Québécois as we have today, the Québécois, you know. It wasn't the Québécois as we have today, and it was a different type of situation with new friends, right? So it was totally different type of situation, nonetheless, just to totally relegate the situation where it was, you know. So that is just something which we have to appellate. We have to be keen about, and we have to be fully understanding about. So being androgynous pansexual with Asperger's, and only about 44 months ago I accepted it, because for years and years and years and years, several individuals have been told and diagnosed, you know, you have Asperger's, you have high functioning autism, you're what's called on the spectrum. It's called Asperger's. It's a special type of integration with the autistic spectrum, but it's high functioning, and it has, due to these mutations of the brain, due to these mutations of the brain at the microscopic level, of course they're not bulging out, of course, on the protrudent on the brain and in the skull, and you cannot see them visibly on the exterior of the cranium of the skull. They're of course internal, like think about them at the nanoscale, like transistors on a microchips, so like 4 type of microchips with the transistors, and whatever the appellation would be in terms of the transistors being, of course, fully integrated and appellated, of course, in all the philosophical stance where we are, of course, today. But nonetheless they're at the micro nano level. So thus that stated, there's no medication. There's no medication. You cannot treat Asperger's, right? You cannot treat Asperger's. You cannot be treated, right? You cannot treat Asperger's. Look at those beautiful yellows. So you cannot medicate Asperger's. You cannot medicate Asperger's. You cannot do anything but actually Asperger's have to manage to explain to others and work on the characteristics and build those bridges of understanding.
Right when I'm presenting,
Sometimes those bridges can be small bridges, big bridges, medium bridges, or extra large bridges. Within those 4 categories, just like when you order a small coffee or medium-sized coffee or large coffee or extra large. I make those, it could be fries or whatever the case may be, drink. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Public workers, you did a very good job here. I love passing by this embellishment of the city, and it just brings a whole liveliness to all the floralis and the flowers, and the embellishment of the public by those flowers is something which we try not to pollute, put it in the garbage, or if it goes into recycling, put it in the recycling. But of course that is something which we have to appellate, and we have to integrate in the totality of our well-being. So because and due to the fact of these mutations, they have these mutations which are consequently, we do not fully know if it's hereditary. So the causes are inconclusive. We don't know for sure yet if it's hereditary or biological, that is genetic, hereditary, biological, or by the environment. So it's inconclusive, the cause, the reason for Asperger's. Why we have people like me who are different, who have Asperger's and who are less than 1 percentile, less than half of a percent even, 0.44% only. And to give you some ASPE traits, characteristics, I would be focused on these numbers here. So that I would be focused with these details. The expected 2022, and that number, what is that symbol of that number from Hydro-Quebec, MN2V30. I would really want to know what that number is. It's quite of a classification for, maybe it's because it's wood, maybe because of the year, maybe because have to be something to do with Hydro-Quebec. It's always go Hydro-Quebec go, because that's why I'm able to do this video, Hydro-Quebec, and our electricity from here goes all the way to 5 or 6 states. All the way to Manhattan Island. 20% of Manhattan Island approximately in New York comes from Hydro-Quebec, from our clean, zero pollution energy, which I always rock and roll for Hydro-Quebec workers, because this whole civilization is a privilege. I just have electricity, and I charge my phone, and I do all my things with electricity. So it's something which we take for granted, but that was my thesis in 2023, the privilege of civilization. That was my thesis, the privilege of civilization. The privilege of civilization. That was my thesis. Right? The privilege of civilization. Hey? The privilege of civilization, That is what it is with that, and that's all we got there, That is why we got that drill, man. And here, see, the lights are operated thanks to Hydro-Quebec, see? So you gotta stop, you gotta pause, you gotta turn your head right, and wow, that is just exquisite. I would love to, my friend mentioned that she would love a garden like that. And if I would have had money, that house I would have made an offer right away to buy her, because if I make $1 million, $1.3 billion, I'm gonna give half 50%, because gotta salute my anonymous friend who gifted me 2 books. 2 books on Asperger's, and 1 book specifically on Asperger's, 2 books on general autism, 1 book appreciating Asperger's syndrome, which I was loaned to me about 4 times, and I read a lot about it and opened my eyes how I am also vulnerable. Vulnerabilities, certain things we just don't get, we don't fully understand in relation to you, the 99.56%, the vast majority of the population who are neurotypicals. And of course, all that the incremental proposition is that allows to be. And of course, all the things which we have, the appellation, of course, of all the things which we have as Aspies, and that's just how we are. And we got to build these bridges, but we are prone to vulnerabilities and certain exploitation and abuse, and misunderstanding. So that's leveled my guard, my own understanding, how to navigate and incorporate and build these bridges, because I'm not antagonistic. I don't have resentful feelings or antagonistic sentiments towards you, the 99.56% of neurotypicals. But a problem I had suffered just like many Aspies. I live with my scar. I was attacked by surprise a few years ago, fell, hit my head in the Montreal metro, was bloodied up, and had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, fell, hit my head on the concrete, 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 and went to the Jewish General Hospital. I gotta press here the button. I'm gonna press it with this. See? Yeah. That's the one. So basically,
I go this way, no?
oh, that's for myself.
No, but this one.
I pressed it. This one I pressed it because myself I'm crossing to the west, to the west.
Hey!
You gotta be careful on the road. That's what it is, and that's what we got. That's how we got that rock and roll, and we got that XYZ, and that's how we gotta get on that go, That's how we gotta watch it here when we traverse the street, eh? Always gotta be on the lookout. It's better to be prudent on the side, because the cars can be repaired. That's why it's best to, the cars can be repaired. The body is more important, So that is, sometimes our communication styles is more different, and there's a lot of misunderstandings that can arise from the way we communicate with other people, the way we communicate with other citizens, the way, of course, we interact on a daily basis, the way, of course, we have certain propositions, certain ways of our communication styles can sometimes be very more odd, more weird, if you want to call it, where it can be very weird, and we're a bit on that weirdo side, but that is, of course, something which we have to appellate, and of course we have to always build bridges of understanding with between us, the neurodivergent and the neurotypicals. So that is something which we have to always be mindful of in the interactions with our fellow human beings. And I'm somebody who doesn't like violence. I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I was attacked, like I said, by surprise, and I went to the Jewish General Hospital, bloodied up with a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, and was cracked back, and I was put on some meds. I was put on some medication, and I have to retrieve those archives when it was exactly, and those archives, of course, were probably if there's a possibility, but depends when it was exactly. And I hit my head and had that dislocated right arm, shoulder, and I was depressed for a few years. I moved in. I thought it was 2016 summer, but this summer is 10 years. 2015, I used to live over there in Côte de Neige, in a moldy underground type of prison cell, small type of prison cell, small type of prison-like cell, and it was very moldy, lots of moldy, and hey, I love that, the red and the white, see on the side there. on the red and the white. I know. So that moldiness, that's what it is with that, the moldiness. It was like a prison cell, but it was very small, tiny, really. Even the kitchen was integrated inside the room, but it was under the basement, in the basement, really. So of course it was in the basement, and that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll. So I moved there. That's what it is. So here I gotta be careful with the crossing of the street here. You know.
Okay, and I talked to Aaron about it. Aaron says not even if he's 20 he would do this. Because, I'm going to tell you right now.
So that is, of course, here we gotta cross the street here on the further side, and that's how I gotta get on that drill. Gotta get on that appellation. From that. And I see, here we go, you know, to get it on the drill, and always gotta be mindful of other citizens who, of course, get on that drill with that, and always getting on those, working on dimensions to be aware of all our circumstances, and that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get on the level playing field with feral neurotypicals, you know. So yes, that's why sometimes I move in a certain way. I gotta say hello to that beautiful garden, you know. Beautiful garden there, that red and that white, and that's what we have to do, you know. We have to correlate it on the integral of the things, and so we gotta get on that manifestation, you know, and just, yeah, look at this, I have to cross here. Hey, yeah, look at that. Hey, is that nice or what? Is that nice or what? That is really nice. I really, really love the white and the red together. That is quite 9+. Just so gorgeous. I'm now crossing the other way. Oh, no, wait. Oh, wow. That's a really nice garden, man. Just nice flowers. Yeah. That's what it is with that. You saw. Or not. I want to go see those flowers there. Look at those flowers there.
I want potato push.
Wow, those are so nice. That's what it is, man. I guess I'm zigzagging a bit because I'm zigzagging here, you know. That's what it is. That's how we gotta get drilling, man. It's always something which we have to appellate and we have to work together, and it's building bridges, small, big, medium, extra large. Whatever the case of, because those 4 categories, big, small, medium, extra large, or small, medium, large, or extra large, I guess it's the 4 categories of, just like when you order a coffee or whatever, it doesn't have to be coffee, but it could be fries, right? A small fry, medium fry, big fry, extra large fry, those 4 categories. But those are the different bridges, and those between those 4 categories of small, medium, large, extra large, there could be smaller subcategories within those categories, right? So it's always a constant thing to remind me that when I work out, when I march, I'm super intense and super concentrated, and when I dance, dancing is my favorite sport, and I have plenty of scars. I survived COVID in between February 2020 and March 2020. I thought I was gonna die, really. I thought that was it. I said, whoa, these are my last days. These are my last days, you know. Yeah. Somehow I survived. Oh, wow, I gotta cross to check that out. That is such a beauty. Just love the gardens, my goodness. Good job. It brings a big smile to my face, seeing beautiful, colorful flowers like that. And it's always something which I enjoy, and it's always something which I love to see in the public embellishment, but that's crossing on the private, but it encroaches because from the public you can gaze and see, and you can touch, you can cross to get closer, but you can nonetheless admire a little bit, and here we are, independent aspie artist, athlete, philosopher, independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist who's financially stressed, but he paid my rent for the month of August, paid my electricity bill, paid my phone bill, got some food, got some grapes. First time I got those grapes. Tonight is gonna be my first grape of the summers that I purchased. I think there was donated once a few weeks ago, but grapes, that's my favorite fruit. Now you know so many of my secrets, and you know, if you're black or white or black or rainbow, man and woman, I'm androgynous, pansexual, you gotta be of age, you wanna love, and from now on, Aspies, we don't have a lot of friends, you know. Aspies, we don't have a lot of friends, but for me, it's gonna be friends with benefits only. I don't will to waste nobody's time, but that is something which I gotta say. I don't will to waste nobody's time, you know. Life is short, and as I always say, friends with benefits only. Turn your heads left or right when you cross the street. So that's what it is for me, and that's how I drill it, and friends with benefits only. I gotta say, I admire, I kind of like how these are built. Of course, they need some embellishment, but the whole architecture of these buildings I kind of like. I'll just paint them a little bright color. Some fluorescent yellow, green, and orange tricolor. 4 colors even. Yellow, orange, green, and like purple. 1, 2, 3, 4, because they're kind of 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be so nice, you know. That'll be so nice. Oh, that'll be something. Gotta get out of the way. Gonna get out of the way. For the youth. Get out of the way for the youth. I don't have children of my own, of course, but because there's the youth of the empire, children of the empire, you know. And their joy, safety is important, as is mine, and they're innocent. And we got these beautiful flowers here. I'm gonna smell a little bit. Kind of nice. Kind of nice. Kind of nice. Actually, more than nice, you know, more than nice. But that's what we got, and that's what I got across the street here. When it's our turn, you know, and just be mindful. That all the civilization is a privilege, you know, having the running water, having the electricity, having all these different elements, which, such as even the food sources and supplies, you know, we don't have to hunt. It's a privilege of civilization. I discussed it in my 2023 thesis of February. So now I'm gonna just close it on Asperger's. The three main problems is lack of friends from now on, friends with benefits only, and the unemployment rate is really monstrous and totally unacceptable. So Aspies. The unemployment rate is 80%. Calculate that. 80%, that's 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5. 80%, you know. 80% is something which we have to think about it. 80%. 80. That's 11 times bigger. 11 times, right? 11%. That's correction. 11 times. So 80% is the equivalent. 80%. That's 11 times more than neurotypical. So for every one of you, which are the majority, there's one Aspie who's unemployed. One Aspie. For every one of you. For every one of you, there's 11 Aspies, because it's correction. It's 11 times. The unemployment rate for my fellow community of Aspies is 80%. 80. 80. That's 4/5. That's 8/10. It's 4 out of 5. You realize how monstrous that is? 11 times. So it's 11 times more than the neurotypical. 80%. 4/5. 4 out of 5. 8 out of 10 Aspies are unemployed. And like I said, I had many jobs, but it's keeping them. I had many jobs, few months, 4 months, 3 months, 3 months, 4 months. It's just keeping them, maintaining them. The other problem is suicidal and depression. I was there for a few years, and it was a tough battle. Being depressed, suicidal, if you're dealing with that, you know, I can offer some hugs, maybe a little bit of a massage. If you're adult, I'm gonna card you just like when you go buy booze, liquor, because I would definitely use a massage. I could definitely use a massage therapy session, you know. I could definitely use a massage therapy session, but you know what millionaires, billionaires? Finance the truckers, finance the firefighters, finance the public workers. Regular massage therapy session, those who pick up the garbage, the recycling, the compost, the sanitation works. The sanitation workers. The sanitation workers. The sanitation workers. Sanitation. Who pick up the garbage, who pick up the compost, who pick up the recycling. In my neighborhood, in all the neighborhoods across the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3. Because it's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3 for the 63. So that is always something which you have to be conclusive about. Hey, look at that. What is that? Is that a kitty cat? And the moon's getting full. Is that what it is? Wow. I gotta drink it because it's gotta get too hot for me to be drinking this. And now, of course, I have to put it across the street safely here. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, so that's how we got good, and that's how we got established, and that's how we survived COVID and survived being depressed and suicidal. Depression and suicidal rates are also 9 times higher for Aspies, and for that there is medication, but not for Asperger's, you know. Not for Asperger's. Asperger's is a lifelong condition. Yes, you might get intense, have certain meltdowns, super concentrated, super focused, super intense, especially when it comes to those special interests. And speaking of those special interests, I'm going to concentrate my directions now. My directions now, of course, to what I know best, and of course to all the categories which I know best, to be on the side of the plurality of the things which we have to appellate, and which we have to get on those situational awareness where we are and what we do now here in the public, you know. And that's how we have to get the loving doing, you know. So I'm gonna stick, I guess, to what I know best, which is sports, fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, rock and roll. And since we're working out, doing some dance choreography in my head, with my toes, with my hands, with my feet, with my eyes, with my eyebrows, we're gonna stick to what we know best, which is geopolitics. Of course, the study and analysis of geopolitics, it's a lifetime, you know, a lifetime. And of course, being that it's a lifetime pursuit, because every day there's changing. The world of geopolitics with everyday events changes. So it is my special interest. It is what I've dedicated years and years and years and years. I've dedicated years of my life, and maybe even before my memories, because supposedly I graduated high school. I have a reference letter from high school 2023. Supposedly I wanted to attend Kingston Military College, so I guess if you want to attend Kingston Military College, there is sometimes which of course you have to know a little bit about geopolitics, you know, a little bit about geopolitics, and that's what we have to do, and that's what we have to appellate, you know, to do in the circumstances where of course we acknowledge that military colleges, geopolitics is a major part, of course, of the curriculum, of the studies, and of course of all the endeavors which we do, you know. So that is something which of course we gotta be undertaking about to get it on those side of things where we are on the plurality. Hey, those 4 gotta be recycled or washed or not recycled, and that's how we have to get on that category here. You gotta turn your head left or right. That's how we gotta get on that training and exercising 24/7. My cousins, aunties, and great family here extended, who of course work out, train, exercise, and I always love when I see people working out. It is an endeavor. I started working out, training, exercising in 2017. You know, I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I created my workout training program system back in 2019. So we're gonna go back in time to 2019 exactly. I predicted what's happening now. You know, I predicted what's happening now back in 2019 in October, November. I predicted what's happening now. So we're gonna go back in time to 2019, October, November. Salut, ça va bien? Financièrement, pas si bien, mais d'autres... Je dis financièrement, pas si bien, mais à part ça, je suis de bonne humeur. Je dis financièrement, ça va pas si bien, mais à part ça, je suis de bonne humeur. Ouais, j'ai payé... Hey, salut! Oui, OK. Demain, ils sont en train de chanter un concert de rock and roll. De chien. Ouais, j'adore les poodles, je les aime bien, vous, les poodles, c'est correct. Je suis pas méchant, Je fais juste mon entraînement physique. Puis j'ai rien à vous donner, je vais montrer qu'est-ce que j'ai dans les poches. Je pense pas que vous allez aimer des pommes rouges, vous. Salut! Bonne journée. So here we speak French, you know, he does French, and I was telling to my uncle about the dogs because they started barking. In French, barking is japper, les chiens jappent. The dogs barking, jappe, les chiens qui jappent, the dogs are barking. So I had a little bit of, said hello, so I had a little bit of interaction, although of course it can be weird with how we interact, but nonetheless pleasant in the situational awareness. He's my uncle, my kind of my family here, you know, all who are here. So that's just how I see the world here, you know, how I've been seeing it since I crossed Canada 2017, and in 2017, you know, that's when I crossed Canada, and that's what I established in Esprit de Corps with Strong, and you know, and my aunties and all my family here to get that appellation, and just that's how we gotta keep it, you know, for the plurality of the things of which we are involved with, and that's just what we have to be doing on the things which we have, and to do it on the go with, you know, it's something which you have, you know, it's of course in the realm of certain things, you know, which we have in the realms of bridging these bridges, building these bridges, you know, from the abstract realm, I meant, to the concrete practical by building these bridges with fellow citizens. And the dogs were barking a bit. Poodles I can pet. Poodles I actually can pet all day. Not all day because I do my ASPI routines, but as a matter of speech, poodles I actually enjoy petting because other dogs make me sneeze. You know, the length and the thickness of the fur give me kind of allergic reaction, but not severe. But like you see in one of my videos, when I'm on the mountain, a thick furred dog comes close and I sneeze like 4 times. Achoo, 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 but 4 like big sneezes in a row. Anyways, so now I'm gonna stick to what I know, geopolitics. Leave the baggage at the door. Geopolitics, of course, can be defined as the study, the analysis, the relations of geography, geos, politics, polis from geopolis, and polis from the city, entity, political entity, of course, in Greek, ancient Greek word. So geos, polis, not police, but P-O-L-I-S, police. Although police, there's semi-reference to, of course, the polis, which was the entity, state sovereign entity. And of course, all those interactions which we have, of course, with each other on the characteristic side of life, is that geopolitics is the study, the analysis of the interaction, the the interactions at all levels, mostly to do with political interactions. And of course, those are to be remembered in the aspects of where we're going to discuss, I guess, the etymological name, the source of the name, of course, if you want to use it that way, the source of the etymology of the name geos and polis, politica. So to understand fully what geopolitics could be defined by several levels of analysis, and of course, those levels of analysis can concretely vary in the different manners of which we have to do the geopolitical studies, I guess it's important to a certain extent, but perhaps not exactly fully. But I guess to know the origin of the word geopolitics. So from the Greek word geos, polis, in relation to geos, geography, a space, an area, a land space, land mass area, and the political polis entity. So basically the relation between geography and politics, if you will, to summarize. But of course it includes many other layers. It's a whole universe, right? The universe of geopolitics is extensively a whole universe, concomitantly to the whole universe, of course, of geopolitics. And so, that being stated, we have, of course, to put into practice, put into action the study, the analysis, the theorizing, and the development of strategy there as I do the aforementioned. So I'm an independent geopolitical thinker, analyst, theorist, and strategist. So that's how I relate of being in my work as an independent geopolitical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist. Nice gardens. Wow, good 10 on, not 10, but a good 9+ on those. The geopolitics of embellishment of the public sphere, I guess, if anybody wants to commission, I could do some work in that, to commission some work in the commission of geopolitics as in relation to the embellishment of the public. I love that red and white. Red and white, white and red. Kind of makes me think of the Canadian flag. I have it on me 24/7, so although I have several at home. Also the United States, because I was born in the United States 3 times. So of course all these matters are related to geopolitics. So now we're gonna go back in time a bit. Back in 2019. October 17 to be precise. November 2019, so just before COVID came on the scene. October 2019, I had concluded, after doing an in-depth analysis of the geopolitical events which had transpired up to that point in time, and speculated in an intellectual academic manner what might come in the future, I had concluded that we're headed towards an international conflagration. In other words, that we are directed again towards a World War III. And that was my scenario, actually called World War III, also known as an international conflagration. And consequently, I also made and created a workout training program system designed, created to go hand in hand with such an event, which my workout training program system requires no equipment. I have myself performed more than 372 sessions. 372 sessions of my own created workout training program system. I have myself created 372 sessions of my own created workout training program system. So I've completed successfully more than 372 sessions. It takes about an hour to complete. In terms, if you want to know, but it could take more time, but it takes about an hour. So it takes about 75 minutes. Let's say the minimum. So the least time it took me was 44 minutes and 50 seconds. That was the lowest. And I think the highest was about 88 minutes and 45 seconds. Something like that. So basically you got 93 minutes, 44 seconds and 9/11ths of a second. Basically almost 45 seconds. But those are the specific time that one is allotted to complete my workout, which requires no equipment, and you got to do 100 push-ups, 100 hawks, 100 squats, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hawks. That trinity, once the countdown starts, you cannot pause. So you cannot stop. You got to keep it in motion. You have to march, jog, or run. So keep in mind that this workout training program system, which I've created, was designed, made to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, an international conflagration, an international conflagration. Keep that in mind. You have to fully keep that objectively in mind, because that's what it was done for, to mobilize, at least from the North American perspective, to mass finance the fitness and mass finance my work I have been calling for citizens to work out, train, exercise, and to do it. right? To do it concomitantly. Concomitantly. And that's what it is with that, and that's what we have. That's what we are. Concomitantly, you know? Concomitantly. So that's what we have to do. Because of course it requires no equipment, right? So it is a special workout training program system designed for times like this, with a workout that is meant to increase general overall fitness. So it's not for aesthetic reasons, right? So my workout is designed just to increase general overall fitness. It's not for aesthetics. It's to increase general overall fitness. I'm coming here, passing here, because I want to see if, I'm not going to really be able to see if there's any further progress as the other day, but nonetheless, find it cool here at this building. Always I'm going to see the financing. I used to volunteer a lot here. Used to do a lot of volunteering there, and so I used to do old arena, and you know, I want to build a 4 with your help. Let's build together. That's 10 million. That's 6 to build together the 4. Let's build the 4, the North American on the Canadian-US border. Let's build the North American Imperial People's Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. The Caesar Superdome used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz. Before that, it used to be known as the Louisiana Superdome, then Mercedes-Benz, then it was another name known as the Caesar Superdome now, where my 49ers lost in Super Bowl 47, also known as the Blackout Ball, also known as the Bro Ball, also known as the Harbaugh Ball. So let's build a biggest ever built sports arena complex, Canada joined United States on the Canadian-US border, where me and Donald Trump were going to fight and inaugurate the opening or the beginning of the construction. By me and Donald Trump fighting in a boxing match, I got those red gloves in the backpack. Those red gloves in the backpack, and that's how we gotta get drilling, you know, with those red gloves there, and that's how we have to get on that love and on those legs, and in the right, in the center, in the middle. That is something which we have to be mindful about, and we have to be on the appellation for here as we go and as we turn. And that's what we have to be doing on that, and that's what we got to be doing on those drills, you know. It's something which we have to be doing, you know. It's that's what we got to get doing on that drill. And here we just build a 4, the Forgotten Goddess Temple. Forgotten Goddess, G-O-D-D-S-S. Forgotten Goddess Temple to be 11 times bigger than the oratory. Bigger than the 11 times bigger than the oratory, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, where Super Bowl 47, aka Blackout Ball, aka Bro Ball, was played, and my 49ers lost. It is one of my top 5 nonetheless, and the other one in the first place is, I guess, is my 49ers winning, although this is one of my top 4 even, because the 5th is in whatever order. The 5th, top 5, if I have to say top 5, is where it's not a 49er one, is where Tom Brady led for the final time for his 6th ring, the Rams to victory, the lowest ever scoring Super Bowl, 13-3 it finished. So let's build the Crimson Scarlet Pyramid. Up. Pyramid, pyramid, pyramid. The house of the dragon. House of the dragon. House of the dragon. You know? Pyramid's garden, not big, but I can have open houses and we can build also the Rainbow People's Palace. Hi. Nice moon, eh? It's gonna be full Saturday. Yes. Saturday at 3 something, I believe. I can't wait. Yeah, I saw you taking pictures, I think, of the moon, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm attracted to the moon. I think whatever. It's,
Me too.
yeah?
I have it tattooed actually.
Really?
Yeah.
With the moon?
Yeah, I have the moon tattooed actually, yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. See? With the pyramid and the moon?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
I told you the truth.
Yeah, I have something special with the moon.
You do?
Yes.
Can I ask what it is?
I don't know.
Yeah. The sun and the moon have to be equal, eh?
You know, it's, yeah, and we are part of it. And it's
Probably.
all the, you know,
It's nice.
connection with the universe. Yeah, it's interesting.
Goddess, maybe.
Ah, we can give it
Bye. Bye. That's what it is, see? Nice auntie. Auntie smiled and said hello, and I entered the conversation. And yes, definitely, actually, I was just speaking about building the Forgotten Goddess Temple, you know? The GODDSS. The Goddess Temple. The Goddess Temple, you know? The Forgotten Goddess. That's... Man, indeed, quite beautiful. So, conversations a little bit with the auntie there, and that is something which we have to appellate and, of course, integrate. And smiled, so I said hello and started taking a picture of the moon and doing these videos. And what a weirdo, but I do have the moon tatted. But don't ask me when I got my tats, because just prior to like March, April 2014, spring 2014. Just my memories black out from my life prior to 2014, spring 2014. Spring 2014 is a mystery. Sometimes it comes back, eh? I don't know if I was a junkie or if I did lots of alcohol, lots of hard drugs, but that's already 11 years ago though, eh? So, I'm a mystic. I do will to build a forgotten goddess, GODDSS. Goddess, GODDESS. Goddess, GODDESS. GODDESS, the goddess. You know, the goddess. Forgotten Goddess Temple, and it's a full moon Saturday, so if you know me in my videos, you can see that I do full moon, you know. The full moon, you know, the full moon, you know, to get those rights, you know, and it's some things which we have to be appellative about to get it in concord yet, and that's just a beautiful little conversation. Could have went more in depth, but I guess it's sufficient sometimes to just keep it short and sweet. So the rock and roll positivity and the fact that I predicted what's happening now is something which you have to concord. Now, what I did not predict is the deterioration. There's flag spotted. I got mine on me, it's 24/7, even when I sleep. So, what I did not predict, because I predicted the general overall World War III international conflagration, what's happening now, geopolitically, the deterioration of many relations and the arrival of new organizations to challenge the hegemonic dominion of the United States post the end of the Cold War, which the Cold War lasted between March 1947 and December 1991. So that's almost 45 years. That's 44 years and 9 months. There's another flag spotted. I got mine tatted. There's another flag spotted, but I got mine tatted on my flesh. Canada, you know, we gotta get that 63 together with the U.S.A. together. We're gonna rock and roll. But nonetheless, what I did not predict was the deterioration of relations between Canada and the United States. So this, I have to be truthful and honest, I did not predict that the current situation will deteriorate to an alarming point. And this is serious now. Now we're getting into serious geopolitics, and I want my fellow Canadians on the right, on the left, in the center, right, to listen to me very carefully and attentively, because it's for your well-being, your national security. It's a dragon versus Trump. I say Granddaddy Trump, as a centrist, as a Democratic Republican, who would have voted for Kamala Biden, that imposing tariffs on Canada was the mistake from 2018 when first imposed tariffs on aluminum and steel, right? That was the first mistake. Donald Trump. Now, that mistake aside, there's the paradoxical invitation. As much as I don't agree with many of the policy, there's the paradox that even before Donald Trump, I always advocated for the establishment of a Republic of Canada to end that. This should have ended, flag spotted, in the 20th century. Long ago, the monarchy, the pledging allegiance to the king, eh? Our Prime Minister Carney pledged allegiance to the King of England. Should pledge allegiance to the new Imperial Constitution, which we're gonna fuse the 10, the 50, and the 3, and the people, flag spotted there. Fourth flag just in a radius. But nonetheless, Granddaddy Trump invited us, said to become the greatest state. But it's not just one state we're gonna add. We're gonna fuse 13, just like the original. 10 and 3. 10 and 3. 10 and 3. 10 and 3. 10 and 3 and 50 for the 63 super states of our coming Imperial Republican democracy, or Imperial Democratic Republic, via public-private partnership. And now you have to say yes to this following statement, which I'm going to make, a geopolitical statement. You have to say yes, whether you're on the right or on the left or in the center, or center right, center left, whether you're in Canada or United States, because this is reciprocal. One has to say yes. And again, Granddaddy Trump is not the way to invite Canada by tariffs, baking some pies, discussing more how we can fuse, and the consensus which we're gonna make together. That is just how we have to do, you know? That is just how we have to do, you know? That is just how we have to do. In the proponencies of where we are. So of course, the idea, and this actually truth statement truth, is that you have to accord and say yes, 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 yes. This following statement, which I'm gonna say, that is of course just the truth of which you have to say yes. There's no no. There's no no. There's no no. There's no no. So there's what you have to concord, to say yes. To say yes. Right? You have to say yes to this following statement. Again, you cannot negotiate with a statement. Gotta salute, 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 salute. Get out of the way, slow down. Slow your cars. When you hear the sirens, slow down. Slow your pace. When you hear the ambulance, when you hear our firefighters, I want to hear the word LOVE. We love our firefighters. We love our firefighters. We love our firefighters. We love our firefighters. We love our butchers. We love our bakers. We love our nurses. We love our truckers. We love our train conductors. We love our bakers. We love our public workers. So the past, present, future of our empire, firefighters. We're gonna get that public-private partnership. What you have to say yes to now, to accord and say yes, 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 in the affirmative to this following statement, which we have to make. Which we have to make. Which we have to make, you know. That's just how we have to do it, you know. Turn our heads left and right. So our main interest when it comes to foreign affairs, again, I'm speaking about foreign affairs, not domestic internal affairs, for both Canada and the United States, is that our main interest is for us to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with the United States, and vice versa, the United States vis-a-vis us. So once again, our main interest when it comes to external affairs, not domestic internal affairs, when it comes to external affairs, our main interest is to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, diplomatic relations with each other, Canada and United States. And this is unique for our civilizational complex, of which we constitute a North American civilizational complex, which is not totally divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. And when it's not just Canada, United States constitutes, and Quebec, but Mexico is part of North America. Some go even deeper south. I'm able to make some compromises to include Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and El Salvador, and Honduras. But Haiti is included. Cuba is a paradox. The paradox of Cuba, it takes some discussion thereof. And the islands, Dominican Republic, and the islands of North America. We constitute a collective emergent civilizational complex, which is not only divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. So we have distinctions, we're not divorced fully. That is what you have to remember consequently, integrally, to do and to totally integrate, when I discuss geopolitics. Because it's my philosophical theory and reality, because it's not just a theory, but it's actually a social, cultural reality of how we are a new civilizational complex, an emergent civilization in many ways, in a North American civilizational complex, meaning that our civilization is not unitary, uniform, but is complex. Not a complex and is in psychiatric dissonance or discord or malaise, but a complex constituted like a structure, building a complex which constitutes an integral unity, but it has multi-parts which support it. The structure and like a complex, you know, it has several layers, and in that such a way for this geopolitical reality which we live in. So that stated, that reality, of course, fully integrated. I have to go to the washroom, of course, before I continue. That is something which you have to affirm again. And the fact that when it comes to exterior politics, external affairs, our main interest is to have the best cordial, most diplomatic defense, military, at all levels, relations with each other. And I guess we're gonna see each other in a bit. Pause it and pause it. Yep. Gotta wash those hands, you know. Super important to wash the hands. Disinfect the hands. Close the lights so that you don't exceed in electricity consumption. And that's about it. And anybody wants to give the... I guess you need some bureaucratic permission, but you know, this is so gray. I love to put a little bit of that red, green, yellow, orange, some black and white and rainbow here. I think it would embellish, because You know, we pass and people pass here, and you got trains and passengers, and this would be absolutely exquisite to make it colorful. What I say, I'm willing to volunteer. I'm willing to volunteer and put on the hours and put on the co-equivalency and put on, of course, the appellation of putting those muscles to paint here. So back to geopolitics. I guess that's part of geopolitics. Embellishment, of course, of our natural, of course, embellishments of our natural public spaces. I guess you gotta get that hydration, HYDRAD, and that's what we have to do, and that's what we have to HYD. Oh, that's nice. That is the embellishment, and that's what I gotta do. That's what I gotta drilling, and that is, I just thought of myself just actually painting, you know, just painting that. And how it would look just painting in those colors with different brushes, I guess. Kind of semi-comedy, me painting those walls would be quite funny, you know, I guess. See, with different brushes and just painting a bit of colorfulness with the black and the white, you know, I think that's something that, of course, would be, I would have fun. I would probably laugh while painting different colors, and I was singing some rock and roll in my head, but some other people, I guess, if you film it, it would be quite like a type of comedy, you know. Aspy, clumsiness, clumsy Aspy painting the public. Clumsy Aspy painting the public space, I guess, because it's really like a space, public transit space, and that's basically what it is. So our main interest, my brothers and sisters, fellow Quebecers, Canadians, United States, is of course to have the best, most cordial relations with each other. Economic relations, military relations, defense relations, financial relations, social, cultural relations. So all our politicians on the left, on the right, in the center, or in the center, left, center, right, I'm not discussing extreme right, far right, or far left, or extreme left, extreme right. I'm not touching the far right and the far left here. Center right, center left, centrist, or left or right, right? And of course, that is something which you have to be remembering when I discuss this. So our main economic, financial, commercial interest is to have the best relations with each other. So when it comes to foreign affairs, not internal domestic affairs, and this is reciprocal. This is for my brothers and sisters in the USA. The USA's first most important priority when it comes to foreign external relations, just as it is ours, it is theirs, is to have the best, most cordial relations with each other. There's no way around that. You cannot argue, you cannot negate that. You cannot say no, it's only yes, 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 in the positive. Then we can move forward, because if you say no, or even maybe, it's not even a maybe, this is like a constant, right? When I mentioned that this is like a constant geopolitical fact, it has been so in the past 75 years, at least since the end of the Second World War, when the dissolution of the British Empire commenced, right? It is so now in the 21st century, and will be so for the coming decades, just like the pi symbol. The pi symbol, of course, which has two heads, like two-faced, two-headed, two-faced, just like our empire. Our coming empire will have So the two faces, two heads, our coming empire will have. So the two faces, two heads, sort of two faces, two heads, two faces, two heads. Our empire. That's what it is with that, and that's why I have to get on that appellation. And here I got 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and that's how we have to get drilling on that. And we have to get on the accordion, and we have to get on that loving correctly, you know. So that is just the pi symbol, which represents, it's an N, like the letter for neutral, Normandy, natural, or Norman, right? The letter N has two heads, two faces, like, and it's the pi symbol, which represents the relation between the radius, the diameter, in relation to the circumference, right? Just that's what that represents. And so keeping that in mind, that is basically a constant, just like my proposition, declaration vis-a-vis our reality for both Canada and the United States, reciprocally for us, Canada versus the United States, towards, not versus, towards, T-O-W-A-R-D-S, towards and vis-a-vis the United States, and the United States vis-a-vis us, although there's a border with Mexico. Our geopolitical reality is so, you cannot argue, it's a constant, just like the letter N, which has two heads, right? It's a constant. That is just how it is. That is just how it is. So that constant cannot be altered. It's the relation between the number 3.1415. So that number is always the same, right? It's a relation to the pi number. The pi number, not a pi like in an edible pie, but the pi number. It's a N, the symbol N, with two heads, two faces. That's why our coming empire will have sort of two heads, two faces. Well, we're gonna fuse Canada and the United States. So because of that situation, how the N with two faces, two heads, represents the numerical value, which is a constant representation between the circumference and the diameter. The diameter, that is the ratio, the diameter of the circumference of a circle. It's always 3.14, right? Times 3.14, right? The circumference, that is. So that is just mathematics. It doesn't alter, it doesn't change. It's always that number, the ratio, the circumference and the diameter, right? And the relation with the radius. And so that is just the reality for our geopolitics. For us to strive in number one place in regards of X, Y, Z, W, M, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4 other externals. In the number one place, it is to have the most cordial economic, social, financial dynamics relations with each other. That is just consequently what it is. Almost got a big, a small, I think it was a bit black, white, and red. Right in by my left eye it passed. Right by my left eye. Right by my left eye it passed. Right by my left eye it passed. Actually, it passed close to my right, but then it's deviated almost to try to get my left. It's kind of very weird just now. I thought I was gonna get it right in the left, but it kind of went close towards the right, and then it kind of deviated, and I didn't get it. So that is just our constant mathematical relation. There's no way around that. There's no way around this. So you cannot argue. You cannot argue with that. So that is an unalterable relation. That is an unalterable relation. So that's why I said make sure and that you fully understand understand this. Then we can move forward. It has to be affirmed and understood also, right? Because it is so because of the understanding comes from wisdom, understanding of knowledge, wisdom, information, that we have two oceans. To the east, we got the Atlantic. To the west, we got the Pacific, right? That is just our reality, right? There's no way around that. And also our historical context and our common present geopolitical realities and future and common future destiny, common joint future destiny here. So we got coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We got two oceans. The King, Charles King, is absent. It's time for the Republic. It should have been in the 90s, right, to pledge allegiance to the King, at least since, I don't know, when Trudeau was got in power in 2015, October. Trudeau maybe should have moved towards changing Canada into a republic. Trudeau also pledged allegiance to the King and his heirs, and Carney just 4 months ago pledged allegiance in March. What March? Right, he's been in power for 4 months. 4 months. He pledged allegiance to the King of England. So of course that is the situational complex of which we have to be natural about and of course incremental about, and that's all we have. So of course that is something which we got to get conclusively on the side and really integrate fully, because it has to be integrated in everything that we do from now on. That reality has to be integrated, because we 75% is 3/4, more than 75%. That's minimum 75, between 75% and 90%. So between 3/4, 3/4, 75%, right? And 90% is 4.5/5, 9 out of 10 dollars, and we export to the United States. The European Union also has problems. Germany's economic engine, which is the main pillar of the European Union, also have problems themselves. So they're not going to be able to absorb in the coming 3.5 years from now, let's say, more than 10, 15, 20, 25 maximum. And that's in the long term, a few years from now. And that's wishing it's still going to be 50%. So now I'm going to speak what's alarming me incredibly, because this I have not predicted, the deterioration of relations between Canada and the United States. I did not predict this. I predicted the international conflagration, but this is new for me as well. Especially I had shivers the other day, Friday and Saturday over the weekend. I had shivers and I meditated, and we are now designated by the Trump administration and Trump, due to the official dictums, of the motive of why tariffs have been increased since Friday from 25% to 35%. And although some tariffs are exempt, although some tariffs are exempt, some tariffs are exempt, some tariffs are exempt, some tariffs are exempt, some tariffs exempt on certain goods. It's still in the billions. It's still just a day after the announcement of the increase of tariffs. There's been in Quebec people losing jobs for a few months, and other jobs being lost, and the economic, financial, commercial times are tough for many. So this is the alarm. This is where I have shivers, and this is what I did not predict. So you have to realize that now we're deemed, Canada, listen to this, this is serious. This is our national well-being here, our security. This is serious. We are now deemed an unusual, an extraordinary threat to the American people due to the fentanyl. Although there's not that much would cross, supposedly it has tripled in the fiscal year, which according to the United States is going to end in 2 months in September, right? It's going to end October. Still 2 months to the fiscal year. But supposedly it has tripled to what was the fentanyl, to the amount of fentanyl that crossed in 2024, in 2025, crossing from Canada into the United States. It has tripled, and there on the official documents of the White House, it said that that potential fentanyl could have killed, listen to this, 16 million Americans. And now that the crossing of fentanyl into the United States might not be so realistic in terms of number percentages. However, it has increased, right? And what has increased, and we've been warned for years and years and years by the RCMP that transnational criminal organized groups are taking root and more spreading their tentacles internally in Canada. We've been warned in RCMP documents. We've been warned about this for years and years and years and years. The transnational criminal organized syndicates. And on the 24th of October, 2024, which is dated on the RCMP, which is equivalent to the FBI, Federal Canadian Police, 24th of October, there is the statement, official statement that, or you've guessed, the biggest ever seizure of drugs in Canadian history, super lab, biggest ever, most sophisticated super lab, which they seized record fentanyl capsules, supposedly 95 million, which could have killed the population of Canada twice over. So that is a seriousness that domestic production has increased, right? So if domestic production has increased, then the biggest market, I guess, is the United States, even for fentanyl, right? It is that it's crossing more. And in that same document posted on the White House official government from the Trump administration, it says that also due to the tariffs are increasing, also due to it says, not uncoordination, that the inability to stop the flow of fentanyl and not coordinate, the uncoordination, not coordinate with the police forces, do not coordinate, that's kind of an equivalent word, cooperate with the United States police forces, of which the FBI is the equivalent to the RCMP, right? So, since this is serious, we've been deemed an unusual and extraordinary threat to the American people, brothers and sisters in Canada. This has never happened in the 21st century. We have to be very, very careful. As much as we don't like Trump, the administration, somehow he got reelected. Somehow, I was born in the United States 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man. He got reelected. He started a trade war with the world. He proposes to us to join, become the 51st, but in reality it would be 13, right? 13, which I think my way to fuse Canada and the United States best, in the democratic, Republican, pro-liberal, love universal, revolutionary centrism best, and via my DRT specifically. I guess best if I utilize my forces now to discuss on the solutions, which is the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, the Imperial Republican fusion of the 10, the 50, and the 3, to implement the DRT, the death row fusion theory, to implement the DRT, the death row fusion theory, right? The DRT. So now I'm gonna explain it. So again, it gives me shivers. I had shivers to put that into realistic perspective, that we are now deemed an unusual and extraordinary threat in Canada due to the growing transnational criminal organizations, human smuggling and fentanyl, and the RCMP. They seized the biggest ever drug super lab just last year, just before 2 weeks, exactly 13 days before Trump got elected. On the 24th of October, the raid in Surrey, Falkland, you can check it yourself. Right, Google 24th of October, RCMP, Surrey, SURREY, BC Falkland drug bust and super lab. And I posted the little videos on this is serious. And now we're facing, both Canada and majority of the United States, brothers and sisters, citizens in Canada, together we're facing 4 main problems. 4 main economic problems. And that's why we have to focus on those 4, solving those problems and economic problems, of course, which we gotta finance and which we gotta do is solve together. So these are the 4 problems. Now, this affects us binationally. Canada, United States, the majority of the population. So due to these 4 problems and the current geopolitical situation of today, 5th of August 2025, we have to implement my DRT theory. That's why I'm making the statement that we have to implement my DRT theory or something similar to my DRT theory, right? My DRT theory stands for D for debt, R for fusion, T for theory, and it includes monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. In the 90s, the Germans, the Italians, the French, the Belgians, they of course they destroyed their national central currencies. They destroyed their national central currencies. They destroyed, the national central currencies and their central banks, and they created the ECB, the European Central Bank, and of course they created the ECB, the European Central Bank. They created. I have to pull my pants a bit because the belt is a bit weird, so that's why you see my hand on my shorts there, and it's a bit sweaty, and it's been a good exercise, so just gotta stretch out a bit, pull a bit on my pants, Sometimes I get itchy, but I apply a cream and I don't scratch in public, because I scratched a few years ago, and that's something which I live with, scars. When I have $300 to go see a dermatologist, I guess I'm gonna go see the dermatologist what it is. And my privates, a big type of discoloration, and it might be eczema. I went years ago. I went 9 years ago for STDs to check if it was an STD, and got a paper, but it wasn't an STD. It wasn't an STD. So I don't know, mystery, I guess. Sometimes things are mysterious, sometimes, until it's declared an eczema or psoriasis, whatever. The most important thing now is the DRT. So 4 main problems we're facing. Both Canada, United States, the majority of the citizen, the prices are increasing, growing cost of living. So that's one. But in whatever order, the growing cost of living, that I guess you can say it in whatever order you want, but it's something which, what are these? 1, 2, 3, 4 gold, 1, 2, 3, 4 golden ears. The majority of the prices are increasing. The prices of goods, prices of bread, eggs, bacon, cheese, etc. So the prices of everything are going up. Wow, see? You can have some, if you want, you can have some of these here. I guess I can. Maybe I should take some of these. I'm going to take away that, but I'm going to take that. Some of these. So now I've added it. There we go. Thank you. So, due to the four main economic problems, in whatever order you put them, one, the growing cost of living, the eggs, the bacon, the cheese, the butter, etc., 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 is going up. He says massage, friends with benefits only. I wish I could afford a massage therapy session. Finance the public sanitation workers, public workers, and what's the phone number? Says U.S.A.S. Massage in French is the same. Massage 483-483-5586, 483-5586, 483-5586, 483-5586. I wonder how much it costs. Or it's been here for at least 7 years. I never been. I was financially struggling for many years, but that would embellish my life. So many. That would embellish my life. Really, if I get a weekly massage, twice a week would be great. Once a week would be good enough. Twice would be great. 3 would be excellent. 4 would be, I would be in heaven, you know. Every day I'll be, what more can I ask for? Whatever the case may be, is whatever the case, and here we got it. So those four main problems, like I said, the growing cost of everything. So the prices keep increasing. That's the problem. So that's why I see, as it says that North American on it. North American. So we gotta see, it says North American. That's why my DRT theory has to be implemented Canada, United States bi-nationally, North American style. Even Mexico can be included. And of course we have to get that DRT because I'm a North American. Quebecer Canadian, and personally this is my home in this life. This many past years I do not personally consider myself a member of a diaspora, since I guess reincarnations wise and whatever have you, and it's Canada, United States. We have to implement the DRT together, the debt profusion theory. We have to implement it and create it together. So the cost of living, everything's going up. Everything's going up. Not everything, but most of the things are going up. Even for myself, my rent went up. I'm not going to say how much it's going to be. Of course, I'm going to say that it went up between $6 and $10. Between $6 and $10. 6 minimum, 10 maximum, right? So I'm not going to say exactly how much, but I cannot complain, because in my case, I believe that it is okay, fair, I guess, what you can deem as fair for the increase of my personal, as an individual sovereign, my rent, because I'm not going to complain. My rent increase is justified, I would say, due to other economic affairs. So that is just what it is. That is just what it is. So of course, through that fact and the factorial, everything's going up, prices that are going up, and of course the rents are going up, the stagnation of the salaries, so those three and the fourth coming, but in whatever order you put them, stagnation of the salaries are stagnated since 2020. Average salaries have increased by 4.4%. Can you imagine that? Average salaries have increased by 4.4%. That is, of course, the average salaries, and their increase have increased by 4.4%. That's the average salary increase, right? The fourth one is, of course, even now, the growing credit card debt. Every month, every week, bi-weekly, since about 4 years ago, we see that both Canada and United States, during COVID, citizens for both Canada and United States, we have reached record-breaking credit card debt. Our credit card debt has reached record-breaking levels. Both Canada and United States are record-breaking credit card debt, right? Record-breaking credit card debt. So it keeps increasing. Even now, from Montreal, from San Francisco, somewhere is increasing, right? The rent is increasing somewhere. The credit cards are being maxed out somewhere, right? The credit cards are being maxed out somewhere, right? The credit cards are being maxed out. The rent is increasing. The prices of goods are, of course, increasing. Everything is going up, right? Everything is going up. Everything that, not everything in all the goods, but in what we need most, you know? Whatever we need most. So whatever we need most. The eggs, the butter, the bread, of course, all the things which we need most. All the things which we need most. That's what we need most. That's why we need to survive. The food's going up. The food prices are going up. Most, not all, not everything, but a lot of the goods are going up. The eggs, the butter, the milk, they're all increasing and they're all going up. Right? In those categories. And of course all the other ones, which I aforementioned, the credit cards now are being maxed out. Somewhere now somebody's swiping the credit card. Maybe it's the 5th credit card now. You know? Maybe it's the 5th credit card which is swiping. Maybe it's the 5th credit card which is being swiped now. Maybe it's the 5th. Maybe it's on the 4th one. He just maxed out for 4. All the 4 credit cards of XYZ citizen, ABCD citizen are now maxed out. And in a parallel life, I know everything there is to know about that. Cell phone tower, 4G, 5G, satellite, supercomputers is everything. I do coding in that parallel life. I also have Asperger's, but there my special interest is science, technology, and computers. So keeping that into consideration, maxing out maximum credit card debt. I don't have credit cards, I have a credit line, right? Credit line. So the maximum credit card debt and all the other one, the credit card debts, the growing cost of living, growing rents, and the stagnation of the salaries. So those 4, stagnation of the salaries, growing record credit card debts, the growing prices of things which we need, such as the butter, the milk, the bread, right? All the things which we consume, they keep on going up. The prices keep on going up, right? The prices keep on going up, right? The prices keep on going up, right? Of course, the other things which we are, the stagnation of the prices, consequently, of course, which the other things which affect us are the credit cards, the credit card debt, the growing cost of living, the expenses, the credit card debt, the cost of living, the stagnation of the salaries, the credit cards, debt, the price of living, and the stagnation of the salary. So whatever order you want to put those 4, they touch XYZ sovereign individual in different matters. But across the 10, the 50, and the 3, across both Canada and the United States, those 4 affect us, the majority, not all, because we have millionaires and billionaires. The millionaires and billionaires are less affected by these 4 economic pressures and crises. We're in a crisis, eh? Well, admit it or not, we're in an economic, financial, commercial crisis. Maybe tomorrow there's a stock market crash or potential catastrophe. It cannot be sustained, you realize, right? You cannot pay your credit card and living with credit cards. If you lose a job and you finish your income price stagnates. You realize where we are. You realize where we are. You realize where we are, right? You realize in the moment where we are in time, right? You realize that there's no other solution but my DRT or something which is similar. The DRT, debt flow fusion theory, for the creation of the UE, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit. You realize that there's no solution. You realize that there's no solution, you know. You realize that there's no solution. But my DRT theory, the debt fusion theory, also something in reality, something which can be, can resemble. What a beautiful garden. 9 plus. In reality, something which can resemble my DRT theory. Consequently, but it has to be. There's an alarm there. I'm sounding the alarm. The economic, financial, commercial alarm. There's no solution, brothers and sisters, but my DRT theory, which includes monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory. I love that red. This is for donation. I love it because it's red and white. H2O, it says. Oh, it's $9.99. just want to see when it's made in. This I can use, I don't know. Have to clean it, see, maybe. But ask my friend if I bring. Is this, since my landlady is gone every year for many years, I've been taking care of the garden for many years, so this is the can I see where it's made in? Whatever, I think it hasn't been. I like the red and the white, it kind of goes well together. You know, the red and the white. Anyways, might be for good usage. So of course, that being stated, that being said, is that I'm gonna use it because with this I can water the flowers better. Because I'm using some other things now. I just have to disinfect my hand and I guess wash it, disinfect it a bit. But it seems like it was in dirt, so it just was in black earth. So a little bit of green on it. So I guess it was stacked away. So okay, so back to the DRT. So again, the DRT, debt refusion tree, is the solution. There's no other solution really if you think about where we are now, right? But the DRT. So we're gonna take all the. I'm gonna explain now. It includes monetary integration too. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt. My $10,000, your $10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public private debt. Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public private debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're gonna convert all the public private debt of Canada into the United States, into the United States dollar. We're gonna add it with the public private debt of the United States, and we're gonna create a new central bank, the Imperial Republican Central Bank. We're gonna create the UE, U.Universal E.Exchange, U.UE, the UE, which is gonna have value of the US dollar. So all the debt, public and private debt, including my $10,000. I don't have credit cards, but I have a credit line. So my $10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Your $10,000. We're gonna add it all up. That we're gonna convert it into US dollars, add it with the US dollars, and of course this is gonna create the new central bank. Add it up with all the money in circulation. We're gonna create the UE, U.Universal E.Exchange, U.Unit, U.Universal E.Exchange, U.Unit, the Universal Exchange Unit, the Universal Exchange Unit, the UE, the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, the UE. U.Universal E.Exchange, U.Unit, U.Universal E.Exchange, U.Universal Exchange Unit, the UE, the U.Universal E.Exchange, U.Unit. The Universal Exchange is going to have the value of the US dollar. We're going to set an interest rate level of 10%. 10%. This is going to be the new maximum. 10% is going to be the maximum on all loans thereafter allowed. We're not going to be able to have more than 10% after that on all loans. It could be less than 10% by principle, but not more. So there's going to be the new plateau of maximum allowed. So not like today we can have 22, 23, 25, 25.44. We're not going to be able to have more than that. You know, we're not going to be able to have more than that. We're not going to be able to have more than that. So all that money, gonna add it up, create this new central bank, and we're gonna issue this new currency. With that money, we're gonna rebuild the infrastructure. We're gonna be rebuilding the infrastructure of the collective. We're gonna be rebuilding the infrastructure of the collective civilizational complex. The infrastructure, the bridges. The infrastructure, we're gonna be rebuilding the roads. We're going to build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war, mass tunnel structures inspired by the Cheyenne Mountain Complex and the Montreal Underground Village. we're gonna have to be building them. In case of a thermonuclear war, we gotta start now. And they're also inspired paradoxically of no fan, no support of Hamas, but they built mass tunnel structures, and we're gonna build 44 mass tunnel complexes in case of a thermonuclear war, where millions could be in the subterranean. It's gonna be like subterranean cities and tunnel structures, kind of like 44 basically cities connected with tunnels, and it's gonna be basically pairs of 11, 11, 11, something like that. In case of a thermonuclear war, that's what it is, and that's what we got with that, you know. That's what we got, you know. So that's why we have to be operating on the terrorism aspect of all this, building of the tunnels with that, and that's why we have to be living on the commercial side of things, where we are on the operation, and that's of course where we have to be building on those. We have to really start, you know. We have to really start building those tunnels, and something which we have to be on the on the side of the part of the implementation of the DRT and the creation of the UA would be to also enable us to construct these massive tunnels and rehabilitate the criminal population, my brothers and sisters who lost their liberty, always XYZ, gonna have the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act, we're gonna mass finance citizens fitness, mass finance tourism, because it does great good, of course, for tourism. Get rid of the border, do a great census of the population. We have to do a great census of the population and create, let's go, my brother citizen Bill Gates, create massive new structures, communications, 5G going into that 666G, and new computer centers, public-private partnership to create and institutionalize the UE, the new digital passport, and created some UEs, mass finance citizens fitness and mass finance volunteering, and created citizens some UEs if they will to work, if they will to work out, if they will to train, if they will to exercise, credit them some UEs, and credit them of course some UEs, and if they want to work, if they want to train, if they want to do some work, then credit them some UEs and do my workout, general integrated whole body training system. That is something which I guess would be nice to do, and that's basically what it is with that. And spread your allegiance. We're also gonna get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, border to border, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, get rid of the border, fuse the FBI and the RCMP into the Imperial Police Service Force based on my total North American integrated Dragon Army protocols for total SSD, security, service, and defense only. That's all we gotta get doing. And of course, created two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the International Integrated Dance League to dance for the environment and for pleasure and purpose, and the Dragon Army. The Dragon Army, aka the Imperial Republican SSD Legion, and to the SSD principle, security, service, and defense, add emergency response, and of course the emergency response situational complex in between. So two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. That's all we need doing. Pledge your allegiance, our family, fundamentally, in essence. Those are of course the main propositions which of course can enable us to continue our civilizational advancement. But this imperial fusion, let's sign those articles. September 11, the imperial articles, the imperial republican, the perpetual imperial union, just like in the United States, you have the perpetual imperial, perpetual union articles, confederation, constitutional, perpetual union and constitutional articles. We're gonna sign the perpetual imperial articles together, That's how we're gonna get doing, and that's how we're gonna get drilling. So of course that is what we have to do. And now we gotta switch it a little bit to that French, because we la belle province. So pledge your allegiance to our family, friends who benefits only. And what a workout. I'm happy, joyous now, Bienvenue, je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique québécois et québécoise. Petit minute en français, bien sûr. Je viens de voir le film Fantastik ça a été quand même un bon film. Je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique. Prêtez allégeance Légion, vous êtes famille, soit vous et nous, pour l'Empire, la République. Je vous encourage à l'entraînement physique. Votre artiste, athlète, philosophe, monsieur, madame, votre philosophe, votre dragon arc-en-ciel qui vous encourage à l'entraînement physique. Je vous fais appel à soutenir la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, car on est dans un point critique. Et bienvenue dans la géopolitique, c'est mon royaume. Je suis neurodivergent, fait que dans certaines choses, j'ai de la misère, pas quand ça vient aux intérêts spéciaux, donc le rock'n'roll, la géopolitique et l'entraînement physique à la danse. Moi-même, bien sûr, j'ai prévu la station qui se passe maintenant en 2019. J'ai prévu la situation, bien sûr, qui se déroule en ce moment dans la situation, bien sûr, auquel je dis toujours dans ce point de conflagration internationale que j'ai pas prévu qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant vis-à-vis, bien sûr, nos relations avec les États-Unis. Celle-là, je l'ai pas prévu. C'est nouveau puis c'est alarmant. Moi, ça me donne à donner des frissons qu'on soit désigné comme une menace extraordinaire et hors commun. On est désigné comme une menace hors commun et extraordinaire par les États-Unis maintenant depuis 4 jours. Là. C'est insensé, vous comprenez? C'est ça que ça m'inquiète beaucoup. Puis les paroles qui ont été utilisées vis-à-vis, qui disent notre inaction vis-à-vis au fentanyl, puis le fait que ça a triplé cette année vis-à-vis à l'année 2024, qu'est-ce que le fentanyl y a rentré. Puis c'est peut-être pas justifié de ce point de commande de fentanyl, ça va aux États-Unis de chez nous, mais qu'est-ce qu'il est vrai, puis ça vous pouvez vérifier là, avec la police fédérale, ça. En 2000, l'année passée, là, en 2024, le 24 octobre, la GRC a démantelé, là, ils ont attrapé, ils ont fait saisie là, de 95 millions de fentanyl qui aurait pu tuer 2 fois la population canadienne. C'était le plus grand super laboratoire sophistiqué. Puis d'une autre manière, qui ont fait saisie en Colombie-Britannique, à Surrey, à Falkland. Fait que la GRC nous a avertis depuis bien des années. Là. Si vous vous souvenez, en 2017, 2018, 2019, ils disent que de plus en plus, il y a l'établissement des crimes organisés transnationaux hors du Canada qui se sont établis. Vous comprenez? Fait qu'on s'est fait avertir depuis bien des années là, qu'il y a des crimes organisés de travers le monde qui se sont établis au Canada. Ça fait plus que 7 ans là, qu'ils nous avertissent, que de plus en plus, puis etc. Puis vous là, qu'on est rendu à avoir des tarifs. Là. C'est peut-être pas justifié à 100%, mais je n'aurais pas voté Trump. Puis je suis pas républicain pantoute, je suis un centriste pro-révolutionnaire. Là, vous commencez à voir un peu de mes discussions dans les vidéos, parce que la géopolitique, c'est mon intérêt spécial, puis j'ai l'Asperger's, donc c'est mon intérêt, puis je suis moi-même pas seulement un artiste, un philosophe, mais un analyste théoricien, penseur et stratège de la géopolitique. Puis pour vrai vous dire, là, ça m'inquiète vraiment, ce langage qui vient de changer. Celle-là, j'ai pas prévu, par exemple. J'ai prévu moi-même qu'il y aura une conflagration internationale en 2019, en octobre, en novembre, mais j'ai pas prévu exactement qu'est-ce qui se passe maintenant. Celle-là, je l'avais pas prévu, par exemple. Fait que j'avais pas prévu exactement. J'avais pas prévu, dans d'autres mots, la détérioration des relations avec les États-Unis. Ça, c'est nouveau pour moi-même aussi, vous comprenez? La détérioration, là, des relations avec les États-Unis depuis la deuxième élection. Ben, Donald Trump, ça fait déjà 6 mois qu'il est président. Puis depuis 4 mois, depuis que les tarifs ont commencé, ben, la relation a détérioré sévèrement. Tu sais. Fait que ça, j'ai pas prévu, par contre. J'avais prévu qu'il y aurait une conflagration internationale, mais j'avais pas prévu que ça sera de cette manière, qu'avec Donald Trump, ça serait si pire. Puis qu'on soit rendu à ce point-là. Fait que, il y a 4 jours, le 1er août, Donald Trump a justifié une augmentation du tarif. C'est sûr, ça touche pas exactement à tous les produits, là, mais ça touche quand même à bien des produits, tu sais. Ça touche à bien des produits, tu sais. Fait que c'est ça l'important de savoir pour qu'on dise, qu'on continue. Nous, il faut que vous dites oui à cette affirmation que je vais dire, cette déclaration. Nous, là, les Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois, puis ça, c'est réciproque, les États-Unis envers nous, puis nous envers les États-Unis. Quand ça vient à la politique externe, de la géopolitique, nous, là, en première place, comme intérêt principal de la gauche, de la droite, du centre, de la centre-droite, de centre-gauche, il faut qu'on vise pour avoir comme première place, là, d'intérêt, là, en première place, comme si on peut dire d'une manière de hiérarchie, là, d'importance là, de la politique externe, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations avec les États-Unis. Ça, c'est constamment comme le symbole N, tu sais, pour la constance, le symbole là, pour la circonférence. Ça a toujours à faire avec la circonférence, la relation du diamètre et de la circonférence du cercle. Vous comprenez? C'est toujours la même chose. C'est 3.1416. Ça change pas. Vous comprenez? Ça change pas vraiment, tu sais. Fait que ça change pas, vous comprenez? Ça change pas. C'est toujours la même histoire. Ça change pas. C'est pi, la relation du symbole pi. C'est toujours pareil. Fait que c'est la géopolitique, cette déclaration que je viens de faire, ça change pas. Fait que c'est pour ça qu'il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation de ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, car est vu à cause que on a 4 points, là, 4 pressions économiques qui nous touchent, les Canada et les États-Unis. Les loyers qui augmentent, Mon loyer aussi a augmenté, mais je peux pas me plaindre, c'est entre 6 et 10 moi-même. Les prix de consommation, ils augmentent. Le coût de la vie, ça augmente. Le coût de la vie, ça augmente. Ça augmente. Le coût de la vie, ça augmente. Les prix augmentent à tous les jours. Quasiment pas tous les prix, mais les prix des œufs, du bacon, du fromage, du saucisse, ça augmente. Vis-à-vis les prix qui augmentent, la stagnation des salaires. Il y a une stagnation des salaires qui se passe aussi. Fait qu'à cause de cette stagnation de salaire aussi, il y a les cartes de crédit, un record pour le Canada et les États-Unis ensemble, il y a un record de cartes de crédit, là. Vous comprenez? C'est un record d'endettement. Fait que l'endettement des cartes de crédit, le coût de la vie qui augmente, les loyers puis la stagnation du salaire, c'est 4 pressions économiques pour le Canada. La vaste, grosse majorité de la population, ils souffrent. Moi, j'ai pas de carte de crédit, j'ai 10 000 $ de dette, par exemple. À la Banque Royale, j'ai une ligne de crédit. C'est pour ça que je dis que la TRD, il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation pour la fusion du Canada et des États-Unis dans un complexe républicain impérial par la TRD, c'est pas dire. La TRD, c'est quoi? C'est ma théorie que je vous présente. C'est un paradoxe parce qu'à cause de toutes mes souffrances, j'étais en dépression, j'étais suicidaire à cause de l'Asperger. Pas beaucoup d'amis, mais justement des amis avec bénéfice, si vous en voulez l'être. Je suis aussi androgène pansexuel et neurodivergent, donc c'est d'être mon ami ou ami avec bénéfice seulement, 18 ans et plus par exemple. Je vous carte, ou je ne veux pas perdre le temps de personne, je ne veux pas perdre votre temps, perdre des palmiers, tu sais. Fait que, perdre des palmiers, fait que, justement, ces choses-là, perdre des palmiers. Ou prêter allégeance les gens. Puis là, c'est un paradoxe, toute ma souffrance, les cicatrices, j'ai survécu la COVID et toutes ces choses-là. Bien sûr, ça vient que j'ai la solution, quelque chose en partie qui est la solution, bien sûr, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait qu'à cause de ces 4 problèmes financiers, là, on doit implémenter, c'est beau ça, ces lumières, merci Hydro-Québec, c'est pour ça qu'on a les lumières de l'électricité du passé, du présent, du futur rock'n'roll, appelez fermer les camionneurs, les travailleurs de Collectif et de l'Empire. Et bien sûr, on va apprendre, je vous l'explique, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, moi j'ai 10 000, côte à côte. On va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis. On va faire l'addition, l'ajout avec la devise des États-Unis. Puis on va faire la création d'une nouvelle banque, comme qu'ils ont fait des années 90. La Banque centrale en Europe, qui ont créé, n'ont plus de banque nationale. En Europe, il y a une banque multinationale, les Allemands, les Italiens, les Français, les Belges. Puis ils ont une monnaie commune. Fait qu'on va faire la création d'une nouvelle monnaie commune, comme qu'on fait en Europe, ça va être l'UI, U point unité, point échange, U point universel. Le U point, l'unité, U unité, d'échange universel. UI